Our culture paints a very specific picture of a good life. It is a life lived in the plural. It is the laughter rising from a crowded brunch table, the clinking glasses of a happy hour, the group photos from a destination wedding, the endless notifications signaling that you are wanted, that you are part of the tribe. In this unspoken social hierarchy, connection is currency, and popularity is the crown. And in this hierarchy, the woman who finds herself with a quiet calendar, in a still and empty room, is unconsciously placed at the very bottom. She is taught to see her condition as a lack, a failure, a profound and personal shame. The world's silence feels like a verdict on her worth. But what if this hierarchy is an illusion? What if, all this time, we have been reading the map upside down? What if the crowded, noisy valley is not the goal, but merely the starting point of a much more meaningful journey? And what if the solitude you inhabit is not the bottom of the pyramid, but the summit of a mountain that very few have the courage to climb? This video is not a guide to help you descend that mountain and fit back into the crowd. It is a map for the climb. It is an invitation to reframe the entire experience of having no friends, not as a social failure, but as a profound and often necessary pilgrimage. A sacred journey that leads away from the validation of the collective and toward the center of your own being. The journey that ends on the day you finally, truly meet yourself. The first step on this pilgrimage inward is to dismantle the myth that has held you captive, the very foundation of the judgment you place upon yourself. It is the great, unspoken lie of our modern culture, the myth of the tribe. It is the belief that a full calendar equals a full soul, that the number of your connections is a direct measure of your worth, and that to be without a bustling social circle is to be fundamentally flawed. We are shown from every angle that a successful life is a life lived in the plural, a life of constant social engagement. And so, we learn to fear the quiet, to see it as a sign of failure, an exile from the tribe. But here, we must make a crucial distinction, one that the noisy world rarely pauses to consider: the profound difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful absence of connection. It is a state of lack, a phantom limb ache for something outside of yourself to make you feel whole. It is looking out the window for someone to arrive. Solitude, however, is not an absence. It is a profound and rich presence. It is the chosen, fulfilling company of your own self. It is not a state of lacking others. It is the state of being completely full of you. It is looking out the window and seeing the world. For years, you may have been running from the specter of loneliness, and in doing so, you have been denying yourself the sanctuary of solitude. You have accepted invitations you didn't want to accept, forcing a smile while your energy quietly drained away. You have performed the role of the engaged friend, all while feeling a deep sense of self-betrayal. You have attended what can only be described as the hollow feast at table that looks beautiful and abundant from the outside, laden with laughter and conversation, but where nothing on offer actually nourishes your soul. You leave these gatherings not just tired, but spiritually malnourished, feeling more empty in a crowd than you ever did in your own quiet room. This pressure is amplified by the tyranny of the social ideal, a relentless narrative projected by media and advertising. We are sold an image of a perfect life that is always communal, always joyful, always external. This is a form of psychological conditioning that creates a universal standard against which we measure our own lives, a standard that makes anyone who deviates feel inherently wrong. So let us begin this journey by giving you radical permission. Permission to reject this myth. Permission to believe that your quiet rebellion against these hollow feasts is not a sign of social failure, but of a deep and growing wisdom. It is your soul beginning to refuse what is not in alignment with its truth. This intuitive pulling away is not just a feeling. It is an intelligent, energetic response to a world that has forgotten the difference between noise and true connection. This intuitive pulling away from the superficial is more than just a preference. For many women, it is a deep physiological imperative. To understand this, you must introduce a concept that reframes sensitivity from a weakness into a form of high intelligence. Some of us are born with, or develop, what can only be described as a soul's allergy to inauthenticity. Think of a physical allergy. A person with a gluten allergy does not reject bread because they dislike the taste. Their body rejects it because it recognizes it as a substance that is harmful to its system. The reaction is involuntary, protective, and a sign of a body that knows exactly what it needs to thrive. In the same way, many women who find themselves with few friends are not antisocial. They are, in fact, often highly sensitive people, or HSPs. This is not a disorder. It is a biological reality. It means your nervous system is more finely tuned than that of the average person. You process sensory data and emotional information with far greater depth and intensity. You don't just hear the words in a conversation. You feel the intention behind them. You don't just see a smile. You sense the emotion, or lack thereof, beneath it. For a person with this level of sensitivity, many common social interactions are the energetic equivalent of eating poison. Small talk that is devoid of real feeling, gossip that is born from insecurity, connections based on transactional need rather than genuine care, these things are not neutral for you. Your system registers them as discordant, as static, as a form of energetic pollution. Your finely calibrated instrument is being forced to listen to a chaotic, out-of-tune orchestra, and your body reacts accordingly. After these interactions, you may feel a profound exhaustion that seems disproportionate to the event. You may feel irritable for no clear reason, or experience a mental fog that is difficult to shake. This is not a social failure. This is the legitimate reaction of a healthy, sensitive system to an unhealthy, inauthentic environment. Your withdrawal, your preference for having no friends over having draining ones, is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that your inner guidance system is working perfectly. You have developed an allergy to inauthenticity, and your solitude is the way your soul keeps itself from having a chronic reaction. It is a radical act of self-preservation. You are not unable to connect. You are simply and wisely refusing to connect to that which is not real. Your sensitivity is not a curse. It is your compass. This soul's allergy to the superficial is not random. It is a sign that you are being called onto a deeper path. When a woman begins to find more meaning in her own company than in the company of a crowd, it is often because a powerful ancient archetype is awakening within her. This is the archetype of the hermit. In our culture, the hermit is often misunderstood, seen as a lonely outcast, a figure of failure and isolation. But in the deep wisdom of psychology and spirituality, the hermit represents one of the most sacred and necessary stages of the human journey. Carl Jung saw this withdrawal not as an escape from life, but as a courageous journey into life's deeper meaning. It is a sign that the soul is no longer satisfied with the answers provided by the outside world and has begun a pilgrimage to find its own inner source of light. Think of the classic image of the hermit from the tarot, a wise, old figure standing alone on a mountaintop, holding a lantern. He has not been banished to the mountain. He has climbed it willingly. His solitude is not a punishment. It is his vantage point. The mountaintop represents a higher perspective, a place above the noise and the chaos of the collective. The staff he holds represents his self-reliance, his ability to stand on his own wisdom. And the lantern he holds does not illuminate the entire world for everyone to see. It contains a single star, a quiet inner light that illuminates only his own next step. This is the light of the self, the true, authentic core of our being. The hermit's call is the soul's signal that it is time to stop looking for your light in the reflections of other people's eyes. It is the realization that the validation, the wisdom, and the sense of belonging you have been seeking cannot be found in any group or relationship until you first find it within yourself. This is a crucial stage of what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming a whole, individual self, separate from the collective masks and expectations. To do this, the soul needs a period of separation from the tribe, a sacred pause where the voices of others grow faint, so that its own voice can finally be heard. So if you find yourself in this phase, if you feel the pull away from the world and into your own quiet, understand that you are not failing at being social. You are succeeding at the sacred work of the soul. This is not an exile. It is an initiation. You have heard the hermit's call. Your solitude is not an empty room. It is a mountaintop. And the quiet you are cultivating is not a sign of absence, but the necessary condition for your own inner light to finally become bright enough for you to see by. To answer the hermit's call is to agree to meet a part of yourself that has been waiting patiently in the silence. But how do we have this meeting? How do we learn to speak the language of our own soul when we are so accustomed to the language of the world? The answer lies in a practice of profound simplicity and power. It is a ritual that turns your solitude from a passive state into an active, creative dialogue. We call it the mirror dialogue, a ritual of self-encounter. This is not simply journaling your thoughts. It is a sacred act of communication. It is the practice of consciously creating a space to hear the quieter, wiser voice that lives beneath the noise of your everyday mind, the voice of your true self. First, preparing the sacred space. This requires a small act of intention. It is not something to be rushed. Find a moment in your solitude where you will not be disturbed. Make yourself a cup of tea. Light a candle if you wish. Sit with your journal not as a diary to be filled with the day's events, but as a sacred meeting ground. See the blank page not as something empty you must fill, but as a quiet mirror, waiting to reflect your own inner wisdom back to you. You are not here to document your life. You are here to encounter it. Second, the practice of the dialogue. The dialogue does not begin with answers, but with a question. A real question, asked with genuine curiosity and tenderness to the deepest part of you. Open your journal, and as if you are writing a letter to a wise and loving friend who lives within you, write down a single, deep question. It could be something like, "My soul, what is it you truly wish for me to know in this silence?" Or, "What is the one truth I have been avoiding?" Or, "What do I need to let go of in order to feel free?" The question itself is an act of humility, an admission that your conscious mind does not have all the answers. After you have written your question, you must learn to listen. Put your pen to the paper and begin to write the answer that comes. The rule is this: you must write without censorship, without judgment, without stopping to correct or analyze. This is a practice of automatic writing, of allowing the quieter, wiser, intuitive part of your brain to speak without being filtered by your inner critic. The voice that emerges may surprise you. It may be gentler than you expect. It may be wiser. It may sometimes be blunter. It is the voice of your true self, the part of you that has been waiting to be consulted. This is the act of meeting. Third, integrating the wisdom. What you receive in this dialogue is precious. Do not simply close the journal and move on. Read the words back to yourself. Underline the sentence that resonates most deeply. The wisdom that emerges from this practice is not meant to stay on the page. It is meant to be a compass for your life. Ask yourself one final question. What is one small, simple action I can take today to honor this truth? Perhaps it is to go for a walk in nature. Perhaps it is to say no to an invitation. Perhaps it is simply to sit in silence for another 5 minutes. This is how you begin to build a relationship of trust with your own soul. You listen, and then you act. This practice over time transforms your inner world. The silence is no longer empty. It is filled with the richest conversation you will ever have. And the loneliness you once feared is replaced by the profound, unshakable companionship of your own soul. When you consistently practice this ritual of self-dialogue, something profound begins to shift. It is a quiet rebirth, a slow and steady blossoming in the well-tended garden of your own soul. The result of this journey is not that you suddenly become a social butterfly. The result is far more meaningful. It is a profound shift from seeking validation on the outside to discovering an unshakable source of companionship on the inside. This is what it feels like to finally meet yourself. The gnawing ache of loneliness begins to dissolve, not because people have started calling you, but because the person you most needed to hear from yourself is finally speaking. The silence of your quiet room is no longer empty. It is full. It is inhabited by a deep, loving, and wise presence that is unconditionally yours. You discover that you are a fascinating conversationalist, a compassionate listener, and a loyal friend to your own soul. The desperate need for others to fill your inner space simply fades away, replaced by the quiet joy of your own company. And here, we arrive at the great and beautiful paradox of this entire journey. The moment you no longer need friends to feel whole is the precise moment you become magnetic to the most authentic, soul-level friendships you have ever known. When your energy is no longer one of lack, of needing someone to save you from your own silence, you cease to attract people from a place of codependency. Instead, you begin to radiate a quiet, self-sufficient wholeness. And this wholeness acts as a beacon. Other whole people, those who are also at peace in their own skin and who value deep connection over superficial distraction, will begin to be drawn into your orbit. They are not drawn to you because you are now more entertaining or more social. They are drawn to the calm, steady light of the home you have built within yourself. They do not come to fill your emptiness, but to celebrate your fullness. These are the friendships that do not drain, but nourish. They are the connections that do not demand performance, but invite authenticity. These new friendships appear in your life not as a solution to your loneliness, but as a joyful reflection of the profound companionship you have finally found within. We began this journey in the quiet, shame-filled room of a cultural myth, the myth that to be without friends is to be without value. We have walked through the illusion of popularity, understood our solitude as a soul's allergy to the inauthentic, and answered the sacred call of the hermit within. And we arrive here at the final, liberating realization. The journey was never about finding friends. It was about becoming a friend to yourself. The day you finally meet yourself is the day you discover the most loyal, understanding, and unconditionally present companion you will ever have. It is the end of the search for validation, because you have become your own sacred witness. The ultimate reframe is this: the goal was never to fill the empty chairs at your table with other people. The goal was to fill your own being so completely with your own presence that the feeling of emptiness could no longer exist. From this place of profound inner companionship, the entire dynamic of your life changes. And so, the right people will eventually find their way to your door. They will come not as a solution to your loneliness, for you are no longer lonely. They will come not to rescue you from your silence, for your silence is now a sanctuary. They will come as fellow pilgrims, drawn to the warm light of the home you have so courageously built within. They will be a joyful celebration of the love you first found for yourself, an echo of the truest friendship you have finally claimed.